When I got out of the Navy, I started looking for a job, and I had a little trouble finding one. I put in a dozen different applications at electrician shops and stuff like that, and I got a job with a company called Furby Electric. That wasn't an electric shop. They sold supplies to electricians. I worked in the warehouse, loading and unloading trucks, and finally they moved me over to what the lighting fixture department, which was just a big showroom with lighting fixtures in it, and I was working with the guy that was in charge of it. And he got fired, and Furby sent me to Cleveland for a week to Neela Park, which is a General Electric lighting school, to learn how to lay out lighting for residential and commercial places. And I was with them for a while, and during that time I started, my mom and dad was going up to Salem, Ohio all the time to a square dance, and I decided to go with them this one weekend, and I met an old friend of the family's. Actually, he was a friend of my cousin's who was killed in an automobile accident. He was supposed to be with him that night, and he wasn't with them, so he didn't get killed, fortunately. But I met him, Jim Warner, and he was about, maybe 8 years older than me. But we got to talking, and he was talking about going to the state fair, and I said, I'd like to go to the state fair. And he said, well, go with me. He said, I'm going by myself. So we went to the state fair together, and we became real good friends. We just hung around all the time together. We went to the square dance almost every Saturday night, and through the week we went on vacations together and everything else. At any rate, we went to this place to play miniature golf. It was right where the freeway comes out on Cleveland Avenue, right where the exit comes out. That's where I met your mom. Her dad owned the place, and she was taking care of it. And so when we got there, I told her, I said, I really don't know how to keep score. You're going to have to go with me, which was a lie. And she said, okay. She bought it because her sister was working there too, and her older sister, and Karen. And so Karen watched the booth while she went around with me to keep score. And I kept going back and talking to her, and I got to liking her kind of well. I found out later she told her best girlfriend, who was Pinky Rio, that right after she met me, after that first time we met, she said, that's the guy I'd like to marry. And I didn't know that, because I always told everybody that I chased her till she caught me. One day I was looking at her watch, and I broke the band on it. And I said, oh, I'll take this and get a new band. She said, no, that's okay. I said, no, I broke it, I'll get a new band. So I took it home with me, and I put it in a drawer, and I forgot about it. And I didn't go back there for about a month or so. And one night she called me, and she said, my mom told me to call you and ask you about my watch. And I said, oh my God, I forgot all about it. Okay, I'll get the band and bring it. She says, just get it to me. I said, I'll take care of it. So the next day I got the band and took it back to her. And we started talking, and I started seeing her more often and more often. I did not know at that time, now mind you, I'm 23 years old at this point. I did not know at that time that she was only 15, which is a little shaky.
Did you ever feel the age difference? I mean,
no.
Did you?
Marla was very mature for her age, extremely mature.
And you were very immature. So.
Yeah.
But did you?
So it worked out.
I mean, it didn't feel like, here I am with this innocent person, I have to be somewhat.
Well, yeah, I did.
You know.
I felt I had to be on my best behavior with her because of the difference between the girls in Spain and the girls in this country at that time, you know. Anyway, we got to seeing each other quite often, and her mom and dad was not too happy about it. First of all, her dad did not like servicemen. He thought we were all a bunch of rum-dum sex maniacs, especially sailors. So he wasn't too thrilled about that, neither was her mom. As a matter of fact, they said we could not see each other unless she dated others at least once a week. And I didn't like that, and she didn't either. One of them came up to the golf course one time when I was there, and I'm just going to tell his first name, Gary. And we were standing around, and I was out of smokes, and I said, I bummed a cigarette off of him. And he gave me a cigarette, and I said, what are you waiting around for? He says, I'm going to take Marla home. I said, no, you're not. I'm taking her home. He said, well, I came to take her home. I said, I don't give a damn what you came for. Get out of here. I'm going to take her home. But I gave you a cigarette. I said, I don't care what you gave me. I'm taking her home. So he left, and I took her home.
Now, was he a high school kid, too?
Yeah, he was in, went to the same school. They were in the same grade together. They were, that was in their junior year, yeah. Yeah, that, and a couple of times she went to the movies with them, and when they got home from the movies, and they got out of the car, I was there, and said, okay, that's enough, goodbye. And her mom and dad didn't appreciate that either. Well, I bought her an engagement ring her junior year for Christmas. It was in her junior year, and I gave it to her, and they went through the roof. And they said, nope, she couldn't have it until she graduated. And her dad said he wanted her to go to college anyway. He didn't want her getting married right away. But we kept seeing each other. She would sneak out, and I'd pick her up down at the corner. And she'd say she was going to her girlfriend's house. Things that we got mad about our kids for doing. Anyway, we'd still sneak out and see each other. And sometimes her mom and dad knew it, sometimes they didn't.
Do you remember anything specific as far as specific moments or whatever where you felt like maybe you were starting to win them over?
Oh yeah, it was gradual. I mean, we had our problems. I remember one year, Valentine's Day, I took her a box of candy, you know, the usual heart-shaped box of candy. I drove out there to give it to her, and I knocked on the door, and Marla and Karen was both there, and she had 4 little brothers, and 2 they were babysitting. But her mom and dad wasn't home. So I stepped into the kitchen and just laid it on the bar when her mom and dad pulled in. And they came in and they just jumped all over me and the girls both and said, you know you're not allowed to have anybody in here when we're not here. And she says, I don't want you ever to come around if we're not in the house. I don't want you to be around. And I mean, her mom was tough. Her dad was a lot easier to get along with than her mom. But her mom was a real, I mean, she could really cut you up in a hurry. And I was more afraid of her than I was her dad. But her and her dad and I got along pretty good together. Even after the ring situation, and I didn't fuss with it. I took the ring back and said, I'll wait, which we kept in the glove compartment, and she put on every time we went out, and then I put it back in the glove compartment when she went home. But we did wait as far as they were concerned. But her dad and I started hitting it off pretty good. They lost the golf course because the freeway was going through, and he wanted the building, and this is when we hit it off good. And he didn't know how to get the building moved, and I said, well, if you do it on a Sunday, I can borrow Furby's truck. I'll ask them if they'll lend me their truck. It's got a electronic or a hydraulic tail lift, and I'll come over and we'll cut it in 4 sections and load it on the truck and move it. I moved it for him, and that's when we kind of hit it off. And a couple times his car broke down and I fixed it for him, because I could do things like that then.
How about Grandma? How did you when did you feel like you were finally starting to win her over?
You know, one day Marla got real sick.
About a week before she died.
Yeah. One day she was pretty sick, and I was concerned about it, and I went to the house and I stayed there. She was in bed sick, and I sat beside her all that time, and her mom fed me lunch and everything else and never run me off. And from that point on, I think we got to be, I was always on my best behavior around them. I tried to be a gentleman, you know, and so it took me a while, but I won them over.
You fooled them.
My magnetic charm did it, you know, my magnetic personality. Fooled them, yeah, I guess I did.